See, we take road trips through. That doesn't work well for me. I can't just be able to go 10 miles. I gotta be able to go.
Well, that's Mike's. He golfs all over Hillsborough and Pinellas County.
Yeah,
He needs some place that
the
he.
in-town thing. It's probably
Yeah,
fine,
I could drive that.
but
But
it won't work for me
yeah,
to be able
yeah.
to go to Georgia.
No, you can't. You have to be able to.
You're a two-car family. One can easily be electric.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Both. That's pushing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. This is a nice problem. You guys must be in a good mood. That's good. So, I'd like to call the meeting to order and thank everybody for coming. If you would, please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to remind everybody to please silence your cell phones and beepers if you still have those. But so we have two items on the agenda tonight. Obviously, the one that, I don't know what's most important, I don't want to say that, but the one that I think is the most drawing the folks here is has to do with the city manager selection. So we have two opportunities for public comment, and I'm just trying to gauge who's here for what, because right now I only have two requests to speak. We have a rule that we have all the time. During the open comment on items not listed on the agenda, we have a 30-minute time limit, and then we resume at the end of the meeting. Now, I suspect everybody's here to speak on the city well, I know we have one request to speak during open comment, but I think probably everybody else is here about the city manager selection. If you plan to speak during the generic open comment, would you just let us know so we know whether we have one? Everybody else, okay, that's what I thought. Well, very good. So I'd like to welcome Cricket Hurt to the podium. You are up, ma'am. You haven't, okay, well, we ask you to state your name and city of residence at the beginning. We set a timer for 3 minutes, which you'll be able to see. The light goes from green, and then when you get to 30 seconds, it turns to yellow, so you know that it's time to kind of sum up. And then it'll make this really annoying buzzing sound when it gets to red, so.
There's no trap door.
And right.
Good.
So welcome, good evening, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Cricket Hurt. I live at 8712 Beverly Drive. And I'm here because I'm stressed out with the people who live next. Well, they're not even they're people, excuse me. They don't live there. It's people have been coming in and out of the house that you guys, I think, are aware of on 8710 Beverly Drive, where the gentleman had died, and then the house was empty, and the squatter moved in, and then he's moved out, but everybody's coming. It's like in and out. When I left just a while ago, there was a Hummer there. There's no water. There's no electricity. They're selling drugs. I live next door. This weekend, I had to call the police twice. The police were called on them another time this weekend from the neighbor on the other side. She's elderly and lives alone. She was actually pulling the cord because they're stealing our electricity and they're stealing water from when they can. I just put up cameras everywhere just recently because of it. And she was actually pulling the cord, and they pulled it, and she fell and hit her head. She's an older lady. She was supposed to be here today, but she didn't show up. It's very stressful. I've woke up about a week or two ago, and in the morning there was water everywhere where they busted one of the water pipes, and I had to call the emergency thing to get them to come out. I mean, they've literally, when the police was standing there, the lady came out, and she's not lived there. She just got there that night on the 20th, because she even said, "You haven't seen me before," so they're not squatters. The squatter that used to be there, I have a cell phone, believe they have cell phones, and I called, and it still worked. I was surprised when the police were there, and he got on and talked to the police, and he goes, "I haven't been there in 4 days," and they're trying to say they're paying him rent, and they're not. I don't know what's going on with the house. I can't take it anymore. I really can't. You smell human feces in my backyard. I've went to my backyard and seen them. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. I seen a naked man taking a shower. Okay, I'm like, I don't have privacy fence, but I'm gonna get one. And I have a 15-year-old granddaughter who lives with me, and she has to walk past that place every day to go to the bus stop and come back because I work full time. And it's just, I don't feel safe. I don't know these people. I mean, the guy that was squatting there, he told me he had a prostitute living there, and he was getting 10% of whatever she made. That's why these cars are going in and out. And the police's hands are tied. I know the police's hands tied, and I understand that. But I don't know if there's anything you guys can do. Like, I don't know what to do about it, at this point, because my safety is in effect because, okay,
You can
sorry.
Finish your thought, go ahead.
They lure at me because I've called the police on them, and they're drug addicts. And I'm scared what they're going to do to me or my granddaughter. I mean, I would stay awake almost all the night checking the security cameras, trying to make sure she's protected, And I actually, a friend of mine brought a gun over and gave it to me, and I just called him, and that was yesterday, and I called him today and said, come get it, because I don't want a gun. I don't, I'm not,
Okay.
so.
So, Ms. Hurt, here's what we can do for you now. The city manager is not here tonight because our primary focus tonight was selection of a new city manager. However, I will speak with him tomorrow and ask him to get with the appropriate city staff. I have your contact information here, and ask that they get together and discuss what you've said here tonight. We can review the video to see, so they can listen. And I'll ask them to have somebody reach out to you and discuss what can or what can't be done, at least to see what help we can provide you. And council members, I'll also ask that the city manager provide a kind of a roll-up of that and send it to us so that we'll know also. Okay?
I appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you, ma'am, and good luck.
Thank you for hearing from me.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public who wish to address the council on items not listed on the agenda? Mrs. Snelling.
Ballot Language, Temple Terrace. I just wanted to make a quick comment on what was just talked about, because I've been hearing some other stories of possible, like what they call squatters, but there's definitely, I feel like there's more drug activity. I know someone I know whose house was broken into, and there was some people using drugs inside their house, and now it's boarded up. But is there anything, like I know City of Tampa, and I think Hillsborough County has a nuisance abatement board, and I don't know if that applies to here, but once you hear like drugs, drug dealing, prostitution, sometimes these nuisance abatement boards can help with these types of things when it seems like nothing else really works. But just something to think about. I don't know if we need that in Temple Terrace or not, but it's just heart-wrenching, the story that she just told. And anyway, I'm sure everybody feels the same way I do, but I hopefully that'll be solved. And the people that are there, if they need help with drugs, or y'all can, if there's any way I can help for them getting treatment, but it shouldn't be that a person has to live in fear and have a child exposed to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Snelling. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment on items not listed on the agenda? If not, I'll close the public comment section of the meeting. We will move on to a resolution that I will pass the gavel to the vice mayor on. And I will be leaving the room, but don't get too excited because I'm coming back, right? So you need to, oh, I'm sorry. You probably want the Cliff Notes.
Okay, thank you. This will be a resolution approving specific ballot language for an upcoming referendum in November. City Attorney Pam Shoshone will explain.
This is basically a formality that is required so that the clerk can then send our requested ballot language to the supervisor of elections. The candidate qualifying deadline was August the 19th, and so we know who is to be on the ballot. And this resolution encompasses two issues. One is our referendum, in which we will be asking the voters to approve or not a change to our charter with regard to the mayor's being able to have a raise in salary at the same time and in the same manner as the rest of the city council members. The other issue that is going to be on our ballot is the list of candidates, and so you see that the Exhibit A that's attached to the resolution basically has the ballot language that will be on there, and it lists the candidates for city council and also has our question for the referendum on there. So,
Thank you. Okay, is there any public comment on this issue, the resolutions? Appearing to be none. Council, do we have any questions for Ms. Shoshone at this point?
No.
Don't see any questions. Okay, if it's acceptable, I'll entertain a motion approving the ballot language.
I move to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, approving the ballot language for the municipal election on November 8th, 2022.
Do we need to spell out both items on this, Ms. Shoshone?
no, they're encompassed in the same resolution.
All right,
So
very good.
you're just voting on the
We have a
resolution
motion?
as
Okay.
a whole.
I'm sorry, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any council discussion? Appear to be none. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimous. Or 4-0 with one abstention. You endorsed all our second mortgages, so
I just co-sign for everything.
everything.
So the next item on the agenda, I think, is probably what most people are here for, although I do only have one request to speak. So there are forms in the back of the room if you would like to speak on this. And that is the city manager candidate discussion. And so for those of you, I think everybody here knows this, but for those watching, they may not. And so we contracted with an executive recruitment firm, a Florida-based company, a very reputable Florida-based company, to conduct a search for a new city manager. And we had the process was open for quite some time. We got 38, I think, was the original number of applications. We reduced that down to a semifinal list of 10. And then the council met here a few weeks ago. We had a public meeting and went through those 10 and selected five and an alternate to bring in for interviews and the public reception that many of you attended. In between that selection and the public reception, 2 of the candidates backed out of the process for various reasons, not because they weren't happy with Temple Terrace, because things came up in their life. And so that left us with 3 of the original 5 plus the alternate. So we brought those 4 candidates in last week. As many of you know, we had a public reception on Wednesday evening at the country club. And then on Thursday, the council members spent all day with them on Thursday, and staff spent 2 days on and off with them as well. So the discussion now tonight is whether to select one of those 4 candidates or to direct the recruiting firm to go back out that we don't want any of those 4 candidates. And so tonight, the expected outcome is to select 2. If the council is comfortable doing that, we will select our first top candidate, and then we will select a secondary if the council's comfortable doing that. And that's what tonight's expected outcome is. For those of you who are wishing to speak, I only have one right at the moment, but sometimes that changes. For those of you wishing to speak, and for all of us, I just want to be mindful that we all understand that we should really try to make our comments and discussion in the positive as opposed to the negative. We should talk about why we think this person or that person is the best candidate as opposed to why we don't think that one is. So remember, you know, the world is watching us. They watch how we treat each other. They watch how we treat people that visit our city. So it's, you know, we'll try to keep this as constructive as we can. All right, good deal? So, only one so far who's requested to speak is Mr. Pogorlich. Welcome.
David Pogorlich, 1534 North River Hills Drive, Temple Terrace, Florida. So I'm not here to reiterate everything I put in the emails to you, but I am here to, in some sense, apologize to you. Because after I sent you an email, I went back and did the homework that I should have done before I sent you the email. And having done that, it occurred to me that unless you're ready to relax the requirements that you all came up with during the selection process, there's really only two candidates that meet all the requirements, and it's Carlos and Mark. I originally had told you Carlos and Steve were my first and second, and I did like Steve, and I do like Steve. But if you look, again, looking at the requirements that you all came up with, there's really only two that meet the requirements, and it's kind of, in retrospect, it's a little confusing to me as to why the other two even made the final cut, quite frankly. So I've kind of changed my mind a little bit. I think Carlos is still my number one, and now Mark, because he meets all the requirements and Steve doesn't, is my number two. And again, based on qualifications that you guys came up with, I think you also said at some point that you were going to give extra points to people with Florida experience, and Carlos is the only one with Florida experience, so I think he should get the extra points that you all said he would get. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pogorlich. Are there other members of the public who wish to address the council? Mr. Friedman, please state your name and city of residence.
Bob Friedman, and I live at 508 Montrose Avenue. I wanted to say, first of all, I thought the process was outstanding, and it was executed very well. I appreciated the opportunity to hear people and meet people at the reception at the country club. I was here for the interviews on Thursday afternoon. I thought the questions you all asked were outstanding, and it really gave us a chance to hear the candidates and to see the differences. So first of all, I wanted to commend you on what I thought was a very thorough and well-conducted process. My first choice also is Carlos Bayer. I thought he had very relevant experience, was direct, was specific, was not evasive. What he said was meaningful and reasonable, and I think he has a commitment to Florida and to the area, and I think he would be an excellent city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Friedman. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment? See, I knew I couldn't count the forms. I knew that.
I wasn't going to say.
Mrs. Snelling.
Ellen Snelling, Temple Terrace. I just want to comment again. I'm really glad the way this process was conducted this time, and to have the opportunity to meet and talk, you know, at the reception, and then another time to listen to everyone, and then today. I really like the transparency and the way everything's being handled. 4 excellent candidates. I think kind of the two that David pointed to seem to be, I would say, the top candidates based on from what I've seen. But I just wanted to mention about Mark, I think Orme, is that? Orm. I just had a really nice conversation with him and about substance abuse, homelessness, mental health, and those types of things. And also, he got an extra point with me because he said, "I know you. I saw you on TV." Because he had watched the city council meeting from the night before. He watched it, so I thought, you know, that deserves some kind of extra credit there. But I do. Again, I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate this process, and I'm looking forward to meeting our new city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Snelling. Other members of the public? Other members of the public wish to address the council on this item? Okay, now I know as soon as we start talking, you're going to want to talk. Okay, I want to close the public portion of this meeting then. Council members, do you have any questions about the process? Any questions? Okay, so this is a little, there's probably 100 different ways to do this, and I'm not sure what the best is or but I think that I'll start. if you don't mind. I'll just tell you what I think, and it's hard to be first on something like this. So let me see if I can make it easier for you, because I'm all about making it easier for you.
So happy to hear that.
Yeah.
He's got his shoe off.
When we started this discussion months and months ago, and we talked to the recruiting firm that we hired, both collectively and individually, the council at that time was very clear about what we were looking for. And we all, I think, spoke pretty much the same thing. And that is, we were looking for a professional city manager, who's somebody who does this for a living, who preferably is certified as a city manager, who has demonstrated success in other places doing this. That we really didn't want to be a training ground. We weren't looking for somebody that was, brand new in this field. We wanted somebody that had demonstrated success. We have, as Mr. Pagorda said, in my mind, we only have two, and that's Mr. Bahia and Mr. Orm are the two that meet what we originally said. And so, in my mind, those are the only two that really fit the original picture, the original qualifications that we set forth. In my opinion, Mr. Bahia has two things that Mr. Orm doesn't. And I think either one of them are terrific candidates. If you put their resumes next to each other, they're very similar. They both could do an outstanding job, I think. Mr. Bahia has two things that, to me, set him a little ahead. And the one is that he has Florida experience. He's worked in Deerfield Beach for many years doing economic development as their economic development director. I don't think Florida is so different that somebody couldn't quickly pick up with our laws and procedures, but having worked here gives you that leg up in terms of understanding the sunshine law, the public meeting laws, and all the things that the environment that we work in. The second thing he has that I think gives him a bit of a leg up is that he already has a home here. And so that makes the contract negotiations that much more likely to succeed, and it eliminates the need to talk about what the city's willing to do to defer relocation expenses and those kinds of things. So those two things, in my mind, set Mr. Bahia, in my mind, he's the number one pick. So, and I don't know how you want to do this. I always start at the end, so maybe I'll start on the inside. Councilmember Donahue?
Well, I definitely agree with you, but before I even start, I want to say that the best part about this whole thing is that this time around, the employees as well as the citizens felt empowered to speak to us. And I heard from so many employees, and such well laid out thoughts as to what they liked. So I just want the new city manager, whichever one he turns out to be, to know that he has the backing, because it went down. The comments went, this is my choice, but I also liked this person. So it's, you have to make a choice, right? So I agree with you. My first choice is Carlos Bea. I felt that his level of professionalism was something we were looking for. And the way he interacted, when I was with the chamber, one of the things that we used to say was that you would do business with someone by watching the way they treat the wait staff. And so please understand, you're not the wait staff, but you are definitely the employees and the workers. And there was he seemed to have a comfort zone with the employees, and I really appreciated it. That was the brownie point for me, was that point. Well, Dr. Spina, hello, nice to see you. So that he would be my first choice, and definitely Mark Orm is my second choice as well. And for some of the same reasons. He has had quite a bit to contend with over the years between the campfire and some other social issues, but he seemed to definitely rise to the top. So that is my number one choice is Mr. Baye, and my second is Mark Orme.
So why don't we work from the inside out tonight, a little different. Vice Mayor?
Okay, thank you. First of all, the search firm did a really great job in procuring qualified candidates all up and down. Some were more qualified than others, and it was really great. It was really difficult to whittle that original list of 10 down to 5 or 6 that we could actually work with and interview and bring them in. I was very pleased with the methodology that we used. I've seen prior city manager searches within the city going way, way back, and this by far was the most inclusive of all levels. It's a 360-degree involvement by superiors, subordinates, peers, and that's a good thing. So having said that, I too had the top 2 were the same as everybody else. Mr. Bahia and Mr. Orm. There were things that segregated the 2. One had more relevant city manager experience, but not a whole lot more. It was very, very equal. I'm sure that based on the size of the cities that they dealt with, it balanced itself out over the long haul. When we first set out a budget for accomplishing this task, we said, we're going to have to pay for a search firm, we're going to have to pay for a new city manager, but we may have to pay for relo, and that can get very, very expensive. The very fact that Mr. Baye lives in Temple Terrace already, he's here. That's a pretty important deal, based on the fact that they're so equal and so balanced in the alternatives. I too would like to see us proceed with Carlos first, and we'll go to Mr. Orman second. In case anything happens with the negotiations, I think we have a good first candidate and an excellent second candidate in reserve.
Councilmember Abel.
Not that I'm surprised, but it's really a relief to hear that you all so far who have spoken are aligned with what I was thinking as well. Mr. Baye, I think is the top choice for me. I was impressed by his vision. Talking to him was so easy. I felt almost instant rapport, and the feedback that we've gotten as well supported him very strongly. Not just him, but most strongly him, I think. I think that I have just this list of all these things that I think that he said and has in his resume that really indicate that he's really going to be excellent for Temple Terrace. I also liked Mr. Orm. His communication was really relatable. Like, he's very easy to talk to, but I would be happy with either one of them, with a preference toward Mr. Baye.
Thank you. Councilmember Chambers.
Okay, well, I might be a little different. My vote's for Dr. Spina.
Okay, well, wait, I didn't know that was on the table.
The downside of us having a successful employment of a new city manager is losing him, so thank you for the work you've done. And one of the advantages of being last is I can just say I echo everything that's been said here. The process was great. What I found interesting was that from the meet and greet, I kind of got a sense of people one way. From our one-on-one interviews, it kind of changed a little bit, is different, and then our 5-on-1 interviews was a little different, and the public comments have been great. Thank you out there and everybody on TV that sent in stuff in. It was very engaging. But my top 2 and certainly my 1 is the same.
Okay, so we can do these, but we may not need these,
I don't think
Sherry.
we need these.
So let me pose a question to the council. Everybody said that their number 1 pick was Mr. Baye. The question now, just for clarity, is are we also saying that we're comfortable picking Mr. Orm as the number 2
Yes.
to go right to negotiations with him if something were to fall
If
through?
something were to fall through.
We have okay. So I don't know that we need these.
I don't think so.
That's a
So nobody has said anything different here. I think at this point, we would be appropriate for somebody to make a motion. If it's the council's wish to pick 1 and 2, then I think the motion should contain that.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we consider as our choice for city manager Carlos Baella, and if negotiation should not be fruitful, that we would ask Mr. Orme as our follow-up.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor, oh, I'm sorry?
Procedural question.
Yes.
If negotiations fail, we will not have to come back to council to initiate the next step.
That's correct. That's
That's
the way
that's
the
my
motion was
intention.
crafted. Is that your intent as the?
Yes, that is my intent.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm
Keep
good.
the ball rolling. However,
I'm good.
we know
Do we still
communication
have a
is key.
second?
You still have a second.
Okay,
Yes.
so we have a motion and we have a second. Further discussion on the motion?
No.
All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. So here's what now I have a second issue for you, is the contract negotiations. So Dr. Spina, city attorney, and I have had some discussions about this, but this is a decision for the council to make, not just the three of us around, coffee. So the council needs to designate a person to lead these negotiations. It has been, I left Colin out too. We use our recruiting firm was engaged in this conversation as well. Our opinion is, for your consideration, that the mayor, HR would meet with the candidate first to talk about general onboarding as an employee, but then the mayor and the city attorney would conduct the actual contract negotiations with the candidate. It does not have to be that way. If it'd rather appoint somebody else to work with the city attorney, that's up to the council.
I can't think of two people who know the budget better than you and the city manager, so.
It's a council decision, if that's what,
No, I'm good with that.
okay. All right, I don't think we need a vote for that, do we?
I think you should.
We do. Okay, well, somebody
I
please,
move to designate a contract negotiation committee of HR, city attorney, and Mayor Ross to initiate contract negotiations.
And Dr. Spina?
With Dr. Spina? I think we just start the 3. I mean, I don't care either way.
well, why don't you just designate us and we'll pull people in as we need. How's that?
Right, designate the 3 to initiate contract negotiations and forthwith, and bring in people as necessary to accomplish the goal.
We have a
Second.
motion.
I'll
We have a
second.
motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? No. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays? Okay. So we will do this, and obviously, if something changes and we move on to I would obviously tell you, we wouldn't just, assume that. And we would hope to bring the contract back as quickly as possible, but, some of this has to do with Mr. Bahia too. So we will bring this back for council approval at the earliest possible time. Anything else, city attorney? Dr. Spina? Okay, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness, that was easy. I thought I might have to argue. I had a whole list of things to say.
I did too. I came up with the list.
I thought that